Hi, I'm Russ Bray, and you're listening to the weekly Dartscast 180.
Hello, and welcome to an episode of the weekly Dartscast, sponsored by Dartwolf. I'm Alex Moss, and alongside me, as always, Darts statistician, a man who's at 10 180s already this year. Burton, DeWitt, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Obviously, we have some sad news to report on. I'll let you note that, but otherwise, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, thank you. And yeah, as you touched on there is some sad news that we have to start this week's show with, and that is the passing of two people that were well known in the world of darts. Nigel Pearson, the commentator for Sky Sports for the last 15 years on their darts coverage, and more recently the Pro Tours, and Mike Gregory, a former World Championship finalist, a former News of the World champion a couple of times. We send all our thoughts to their family and friends at this difficult time, but I'm sure you'd say the same.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Obviously, Nigel Pearson has been one of the leading voices in world darts for some time, and just this year has stepped up his game, doing a bunch of the Pro Tours and familiarizing himself more with the game. And of course, Mike Gregory, one of the top players right before the split, and one of the top players who decided to stay in the BDO after the split. Sympathies to all of their friends and loved ones.
Plenty to get to on the show. You're going to hear from a man that made some big moves at the weekend in Munich, Martin Lukeman. You're also going to hear from the PDC commentator Dan Dawson, and also a little bit of darts away from the PDC. We've got the ADC's Scott Hunt coming on the show as well. But let's start with the Euro Tour and with the champion, Luke Humphries, winning his first European Tour title in Munich at the weekend. Are we looking at the next first-time major winner in the PDC, though, in cool hand?
I mean, he's in the conversation with a few other players. And I mean, obviously, we can start with Michael Smith, who was a world finalist this year, a UK Open finalist. He has to be the first name on many people's lips, but Luke Humphries is right there or thereabouts as well. And, so is Damon Hedda, who made a quarterfinal here. It's going deep in every tournament. Ryan Searle, who made a final at the back end of last year. I've had that feeling that he's regressed a little bit, but he's fifth in the year in Players' Championship events in terms of averages. Maybe just has had a few poor matches when I've watched, but it seems like Ryan Searle has picked up exactly where he's left off last year. And then you have, some players who are breaking through this year, like Martin Schindler, Josh Rock, Callan Ritz, who he's definitely regressed a little bit this year, but you think of it more of a slump, showing every signs of being the next major champion. And then, of course, there's a bunch of players on that next tier, players like Christoph Ratajski, Dave Chisnell, who have been around and have gotten close but haven't yet done it. There's a lot of players who could be that next first-time major winner. But Luke Humphries has to be one of the favorites right now, because it's almost every tournament where he's going deep, whether it's a Players' Championship event, a Euro Tour, or a major. And, look this year in the Players' Championship events, he's won his board in 8 of the 13 events, and including winning the very first one of the year. That's a level of consistency that champions have. They're able to, every single tournament, come and bring their best. And if they're not able to bring their best, still find ways to get results. It's a tough question, because I don't know who the next first-time major winner is going to be. I called Joe Cullen and Danny Noppert, in the middle of the pandemic, the two most underrated players in world darts. But I didn't think that even at the start of this year, they would be the next two first-time winners. Luke Humphries, I might have even put ahead of either one of them at that point in time. But it was Joe Cullen at the Masters and then Danny Noppert at the UK Open. I don't know if we're looking at the next first-time major winner, but we're looking at one of the 2 or 3 players who legitimately should be the favorite to be the next first-time major winner. And if he goes out and wins the World Match Play later this summer, it would not be surprising. It would not be surprising at all. I don't know what I'm looking for. He is on the cusp. But is he the next first time? I don't know.
I think with Luke Humphries, even before this weekend, you'd say that he was in that list of players. He was in the list of players in that conversation to be the next first-time major winner in the PDC. And it goes to show as well, you rattled off a lot of names there, the strength in depth that we have in the PDC right now, and Dan Dawson touches on it later when we speak to him as well. But there are just so many people that you look at and you go, they're more than capable of going on a run in one weekend, in 1 week, and lifting that big silverware. And you mentioned some of the names that I was going to mention. You've always got to put Michael Smith up there in the conversation. Of course, players in the past that have made finals or won Euro Tour events, the likes of Dave Chisnall and Christoph Ratajski. And then even someone like Mervyn King. Okay, he's not won one yet. That's why I've mentioned his name. But he's made plenty of finals and even making finals in the last couple of years on TV. So he's someone that, okay, he's not as consistent as he was in the past, but he is capable as well of going on a deep run and making a final. So you'd put him in there as well. But certainly Luke Humphries, and this is someone that you go back 10 years now, 2011 and 2012, he was playing on the development tour in the PDC, played in 16 events, and he won just over £200. And you look where he is now, he's on the brink of that top 16. He's only, I think, £15,000 off Ryan Serling, that 16th spot at the moment. He is a player that you'd expect to get in that top 16 at some point this year. And look at what he's done at the weekend. And okay, the games on the final day, on the Monday, I should say, not the Sunday as we're used to because of the Easter weekend, but the games that he had on the Monday will, of course, take all the headlines. The string of performances that he put together, the 101 average to beat Michael Smith, the 102 to beat Wesley Plazier, and then the 7-0, which is the one that jumps off the page, giving Michael van Gerwen just one dart at a double in 7 legs is something that we very rarely see, and 107 average to beat him 7-0, get to the final. But I want to mention that the first game that he had at the weekend, the game against Jeffrey Desvan, who was good to see some signs of him coming back to some form, but Jeffrey was 4-2 up, and we saw Luke Humphries, I think, hit 5 out of 7 on the doubles after that, if you include the double shots that he had at the end to win the game. So you could see from the start of his tournament that he was well up for it, and how he's come through the field and picked up the title. Okay, that the final in the end against Martin Lukeman wasn't his best performance, was it? A 92 average, but he did more than enough to pick up the title. So yeah, I think looking at what he's been able to produce, not just this weekend, but the last couple of years, he was in the conversation. I think winning a Euro Tour title, that is the next step that you would say to becoming a major winner, getting that title on a stage in a Euro Tour event. So for me, yeah, if I had 50p, I think I'd be trying to put it on a few different people. But if I had to put on one, yeah, I think Luke Humphries might just get the edge at the moment.
Well, let's talk about the beaten finalist, Martin Lukeman. Obviously a huge weekend for him, making the final. But just how career-changing do you think this past weekend might be for him?
Yeah, it really could be. And I think every year when we see players win their tour card at Q School or get that tour card via other means, every year you see players make strides straight away. You look at last year, Alan Suter was one that really did take off straight away, adjusted to life on the tour very quickly. Of course, a former 5-time world champion, Raymond van Barneveld, he got his tour card back at Q School, and we saw him win a title. And Florian Hempel, towards the end of the year, we saw him do some damage in the TV events. Martin Lukeman, a player that got his tour card last year, fair to say he didn't do too much at the start of last year. He only picked up, I think, just under 10 grand for the season, which if he was to replicate that this year, which we know now he's not going to, he's going to do a lot more, but he wouldn't have got anywhere near keeping his tour card. But I think there were some signs last year when you look back to his results that he could do something this year. And I want to touch on, he got to a semi-final in the Players' Championships last year, had some big results in that. I think he had 4-6-5 wins that day, beat Johnny Clayton on the way as well. And he's someone that you got to say he has taken a bit of time to get used to playing on the Pro Tour and being a tour card holder. And that's no disrespect to him or any player, because not every player takes to it straight away. And he's someone that has took in all these experiences, soaked up all these experiences. And I think we saw at the weekend it all almost come together, getting to the final and losing out. But what we saw on that run to the final, I think we saw a lot of facets of his game that could hold him in good stead for the rest of the year. And he is going to be someone that we'll see in plenty of the major events now this year off the back of this final and what he's done over the last few months. But I think World Match Play has got to be a genuine shout for him to get into that now. At the start of the year, you might not have said that. The World Grand Prix, the Players' Championship finals, the European Championship. I mean, you look at the qualifiers for that, the 7 qualifiers that we've had, one we had last year, he's won 6 out of the 7 qualifiers. So he's marking the qualifiers, and we've said in the past on this show how important those qualifiers are for players coming through the ranks, and he's certainly making his mark on that now. He's winning those qualifiers more regularly and giving himself more opportunities, giving himself more stage time, and we're seeing it this year with the Euro Tour going back to that 13 event calendar, that these players are going to get a lot more stage time, and I think Martin Lukeman is someone that we are going to see plenty of on the stage this year, and he's been an entertaining player to watch at the weekend, come through some tight games there, beat 2 of the German players as well, so we've seen that he can go up against the crowd and come through, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else he can do this year, and you're going to hear from him in a moment as well. We haven't spoke to him yet, but I'm looking forward to chatting to him and hearing what he thought of the weekend and how far he can go.
Yeah, and I want to focus on last year because it's a really, at least to me, interesting campaign that he had. Yes, he won under 10,000 pounds. Yes, if you look at the averages, he was 112th in the Players' Championship events, averaging 88.5. And yes, 19 of the 30 tournaments he lost first match. He did come on more at the end of the year. You mentioned that run to the semifinal. He also won 2 other boards. So over those final 5 events, he was playing much, much better. But he also went out first match 19 times over the course of the year. And beyond that, I'll stop right there. He went out first round 19 of those times. But there's another way to look at all of this, and that was just how difficult of a draw he had last year relative to what you'd expect. Of those 19 times he went out first round, 18 of them were to players who ended up qualifying for the World Championships at the end of the year. The first 15 players he played, most of them in first rounds, but a couple of them in second rounds and third rounds, ended up qualifying for the World Championships. 38 of the 45 players he went against, including 26 of the first round matchups, were against players who ended up playing in the World Championship. He only drew someone who didn't qualify for Worlds 4 times all year. By comparison, the players that he finished tied with in the Players' Championship order of merit, obviously you can break the tie on countback, but there were 3 other players he finished tied with. Boris Kersmar drew 7 players who ended up not qualifying for Worlds. So did Max Hopp. Scott Waits drew 11. That's more in line with what you'd expect, somewhere in the high single digits to low double digits. Martin Lukeman only drew 4 players all year first match who did not end up qualifying for the World Championships, and only 7 across all rounds. He was given a very difficult draw, or at least a challenging draw every tournament. And yes, his performances didn't match up, but he was never really given a chance until the back end of the year to put some matches together and get some confidence. And what did he do when he got that chance? Okay, he drew Ian White, but Ian White was struggling at the time. Then he drew one of the few players who didn't qualify for Worlds, beat him in a last leg decider, took some confidence out of that and lifted his game and beat Kim Huybrechts, beat Johnny Clayton, as you mentioned, beat him 6-3, beat Keen Barry before going out. Okay, he got beat to nil by Ryan Searle, but Ryan Searle averaged nearly 117 in that match. Once he got a chance, once he got his foot in and got some confidence, he got results. And this year, he's not lighting up the board or lighting up the room with his performances, but he's playing steady, and he's added 4 points to his averages. He's went from being 112th in averages to the mid 60s so far this year, and that added confidence that's come from learning how to win and finally getting a little bit of luck in the draw has paid dividends. He's now provisionally in the World Match Play. He's provisionally in every television event except for the Grand Slam as things stand. And he's playing well enough that you think that there's a good chance he'll hold that. He'll still need to keep getting results and maybe hopefully get a little bit of luck that he didn't get last year. But I think last year he just never was given a chance to get his foot in until it was too late. And once he did, he started learning how to win. And as you said, he showed what his game is like when he's given the chance. He knows he's very good at picking his moments and winning with those mid-90 averages. And well, if you can win, if you know how to win with a mid-90s average, you're going to go deep quite a bit and pick up ranking money and qualify for all of the events. And that's what he's doing now.
Well, we've just spoken about him. Let's hear from the man himself. Here's our chat with the runner-up on the European Tour at the weekend, Martin Lukeman. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the German Darts Grand Prix runner-up, Martin Lukeman. Thanks for the time, Martin. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Doing well, thank you. And firstly, it's been a few days now since you run to the final in Munich. Have you had a chance yet to let your achievements from the weekend sink in?
I have, but then again, I haven't as much because obviously I've been busy going to our wedding and stuff. But I reckon I'll be thinking a lot more in the next few days.
Come back to the weekend just gone later, but let's rewind back to the start for you in darts. We saw you win a title on the Challenge Tour in 2015, but before then, when did it all start for you in darts?
It probably weren't too far, maybe 3 years before that, 2 years before that. Playing in local pub leagues in Hayes and Alfort and them places.
You're a fairly late starter to the game. What got you into playing darts?
I remember watching, I can't remember who it was. There was a player playing on a BDO, and I've got a dartboard put up in my room, and I always had a chuck on it, maybe for an hour a day or half hour a day. And then a couple of my pals said, "Look, we're going darts tonight." I started playing for their team, and it sort of progressed from there.
You entered the second weekend of the Challenge Tour season in 2015. What was it that persuaded you to make that trip to Wigan and give the Challenge Tour a go?
Well, I had a sponsor at the time, and I thought I was good enough. So I sort of went over there. I thought, let's try my luck. Let's see how good I really am. And for a while, I was competing, and then I think there's a lack of practice and love for the game. I sort of fell out of it a bit.
Well, we should mention that title that you did have later that year, winning a Challenge Tour title. I think you dropped just 3 legs on the way to the quarterfinals. You beat Ryan Searle in the semi-finals, Kirk Shepherd in the final. What are your memories of that day?
Yeah, I was over the moon that day. Obviously, my first EDC title. It made me feel like I belonged a bit. And I thought, I maybe have a future in this game. And we said about Ryan Searle when he beat me in that semi-finals back in the last year in the Grand Tour. He mentioned that. He goes out to that Challenge Tour.
Well, we saw you then play Q School 2016-2017, but a run I wanted to mention was the UK Open 2017, getting to the last 16. You'd obviously played the UK Open qualifiers that year as well. How much did you take away from those 2 weekends heading to Munich? Because you picked up a few wins those weekends.
Yeah, I've always known about the game in me, but I don't know, I felt like, I don't know if I didn't put enough effort in or I fell out of love with the game, but I wasn't really sure I put my finger on it. But I always knew I had the talent, so I could always play really good darts. But I don't know.
Certainly showed it that weekend in Minehead on the Friday, coming through 2 last leg deciders. You beat Chris Dobie to make the last 16, then you lost out to Ian White. But how much did that run mean to you at the time?
Oh, at the time, yeah, it was brilliant. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, even so that extra few quid went a long way. And just being in the top tier darts with the best players in the world, I did want to have some of that.
We then see you play Q School 2018-2019. I'm guessing you mentioned there you lost a bit of love for the game. Is that why you weren't on the list of entries for Q School 2020?
Yes. Well, I actually got back. I felt I should give this game another go when it was just before the first lockdown. I put a board up. I saw the World Championships. I put a board up. I went to 3 or 4 UK qualifiers, but I ended up losing the 2 finals. To get enough, I lost to Jason Heaver and Jason Askew in 2 different finals. That's the Riley's qualifiers. And I thought to myself, I'm going to give this a go again. I thought, right, I'm practicing well. I thought, I'm going to have one more go at this. But then we went into lockdown for a year. So I spent the whole year playing online darts, and Houston will come around, and my friend said, "Look, I'll put you forward for it," because he was actually at the second UK Open qualifier that I got into the final of. Now, he saw how good I was. He said, "Look, I'll put you forward," and then I went to Q School and got my tour card, and the rest is history.
What a story, yeah. I mean, Q School, it gets the green light in 2021. I know there was a few times over the months before that we weren't sure if it was going to get the go-ahead, but it did, and we had the 2 stages for the first time. You lost out in the last 4 on one of those final days. I think the first day to Kirk Shepherd. How did you feel at the end of that first day? Because a lot of points on the board, but was it hard to get over coming so close, or were you confident you would go on and get the card?
The preschool, I wasn't playing very well, and I only just scraped through with 4 points, I think it was. I think I had to play Anastasia to get through. And, but then John Scott was the first number of players, and I hung out with him, and he got us on a practice region that night, and every day for a Q school, and it done me the world of good, because I played brilliant.
2 last 16s in the next 2 days after the final, that gets you that tour card on the order merit with a day to spare. What was that feeling like when you found out that you'd done enough, you wouldn't have to come back for that final day?
Oh, well, I didn't actually know until about 9, 10 o'clock at night. I was outside, and one of the TDC officials came out and goes, "Are you still doing it? You got your tour card?" I goes, "Oh, have I?" Because I live in Watford, the Milton Keynes only half hour away. I phoned the wife out and said, "Come get me." I come home, and she said, grabbed me, and I went home. I was knackered. 6 days of darts non-stop. It was hard work.
We should give a mention to your wife, Mel, as well, who's also your manager. What's it like having your partner as a manager? It's worked pretty well for Peter Wright so far.
She's a joint manager. But yeah, she does brilliant. She's my backbone at the moment.
My co-host on this podcast, Burton, and I, we were looking back at your weekend in Munich, but also your 2021, your first year on the tour, and Burton mentioned how you were quite unlucky, really, with the draws on the floor last year. How did you reflect on that first year as we turned the page on 2021?
The first half, maybe 3/4 of the year, I felt like I lost a lot of 6-5s against brilliant players. And I thought, look, I'm not getting battered here. Maybe I'm getting the luck of the green, or I just need to knock my average up 5 points, maybe 7 points. Maybe finish a bit better. There was a lot of little niggles. And back in the last year, I started playing a bit better. And then over that Christmas, I thought, right, this is it. And I started putting the hours on the dartboard. I started putting the graft in. I quit my job. Thought, right, I'm going to give this a proper go. It's my last year. This is all or nothing. And it's working at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely is. I was going to mention, we get to the end of 2021, there is a long break for players between those last Players' Championships, Ali Pali, and then the first Players' Championships. So those 2 or 3 months, was it full-on practice? You quit the job and that was it? You were going to commit fully to this year?
Yeah, I was going to commit 100% this year. I thought this was bust or go. Obviously, I lost out on the World Championship by a few quid. I missed 3 events for COVID. I got a stomach bug for the World Championship qualifiers. It was just like, back in the last year, it just felt like everything was going against me. My European got cancelled, which I played the first one this year in restart. I was just like, but I just thought, I'm going to knuckle down, quit the job, I'm going to give this a proper go.
Going off Darts Oracle, they've got your average going up by 3 points from last year to this year already. Is there one game in particular or one day this year where you felt it all click, or do you think it's something that's built gradually as the year's gone on so far?
I'm not sure. I think I changed my points. I had one game, my first total game, I played Jim Williams. And I think I had about 7 or 8 bounce outs in the games. And my friend Richie Edhouse, I sit with him, he gave me some points to use. They were double the length of my normal points. I put them in. And I think it changed my game a hell of a lot. And I just got really comfortable with my darts. And I think it just went from there. The results started going my way. And I started darts, you need confidence in darts, or it's a hard battle. And I got just remember changes, I think.
Before we get on to Munich, we have to mention Hildesheim a few weeks ago in that game with Damon Heta. You averaged 104, he averaged 108, you win it 6-5. How much confidence did you take from a game like that, especially on the stage as well?
Oh, that was probably I think that is my best performance in the PDC so far. I'll take better than that, but not on the PDC, you know. Yeah, that was absolutely awesome. I loved it. Damon's an absolute gentleman as well.
Yeah, we're seeing you two built up quite a rivalry already this year, and that brings us on to the weekend just gone. Wins over Adam Gavlas, Gabriel Clemens, Keane Barry takes you into the quarterfinals, that final session. How are you feeling heading into that final session?
Oh, I was nervous, but I was well up for it.
You then come through 2 corkers with Martin Schindler and Damon Heta, who you mentioned, to reach the final. As you're waiting to find out who you're going to play in that final, what's going through your head as you get ready to play in a final of a European tour?
I went downstairs. I took a minute for myself. I just chilled out. I went upstairs and I saw Luke was winning 5-0 or something, and I was thinking, wow. So I got my bits and pieces, my ears and stuff, and I went straight to the taxi truck to try and practice it again, but I was knackered. That's one thing I did learn on that. I'm going to have to take, if I'm having them long runs on the European Tour, you've got to pace yourself. They are long days.
Matthew Kiernan, who you know, he helps us out with interviews on this show, and he said to ask you about playing Luke Humphries in an Open in the past. Can you recall that occasion?
Yeah, I did play Luke Humphries. It's funny because actually my nickname was Cool Man Luke. And I played Luke on the Challenge Tour, and he just changed it to Cool Hand Luke. And obviously we had very similar. It might have been something else. I'm sure it was a Challenge Tour. I'm not 100% sure. And we said, right, whoever wins this match gets to keep the name. And he beat me. And then he just done me in another final. I'll get him. Yeah. He's a good lad, Lukey boy.
Yeah, you've known each other a long time. And your new nickname, Smash, where did that come from?
I think the wife made it up, really. Smash. I've got like a whole tattoo on my arm and that. I don't know. It just happened, I think.
And although the final with Luke, it didn't go your way, we did see that the crowd show their support for you, the run that you had at the weekend, and it could open a lot of doors for you now into a lot of the majors, the match play, the Worlds, the European Championship. Have you allowed yourself a moment to think about that?
Oh yeah, I've been thinking about that. I don't want to think about it too much. This year, in my head still, it's just mission keep my tour guard. It's not done yet, and that is all I'm aiming for, is to keep my tour guard this year. Whatever else comes, I'll take one match at a time. Everything's a bonus at the moment. I'm playing well. I've just got to keep that mindset. As soon as I start overthinking stuff will go wrong.
Well, we should mention your walk-on as well. I'm partial to a bit of Scar, so your walk-on Lip Up Fatty, that's one of my favourites on the tour. Are you a Scar fan yourself? Was it a hard choice to pick that one?
I've just always had that song, to be fair. County and stuff like that. And I'm quite a big boy myself.
Yeah. Well, we enjoyed the belly dance on stage at the weekend too. Was that just a one-off, or do you think that's going to become your trademark on your walk-on? Would you do it at the Winter Garden?
I'm not going to do it all the time, but I may think about doing it now and again. I've done it at county stages and little tournaments and stuff like that. I don't know, it just happened. I didn't plan to do it. I had a load of the German boys bigging me up, obviously after the Schindler match against the hair. I had a lot of German fans in there after that. And they were sort of egging me on.
Yeah, good stuff. And you mentioned it there, really. The main goal for you is still to get into that top 64 at the end of the year, keep your tour card. Is that all the focus still, even with all the...
Yeah, that's my plan this year, is just getting that top 64. And then next year I can start thinking about other stuff. But this year is my second year now. And I really don't want to go back to Q School. See, it's hard. It don't matter what play gets chopped down there. Very, very rare do you come back up straight away. It is so hard.
Well, Martin, you're doing a great job in keeping that tour card based on what you've done already this year. So congratulations on the run in Germany, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on that.
Thanks again to Martin for joining us. Now on to the Premier League, and we've not spoken too much about the Premier League in detail over the last few weeks. We've done our picks, but let's talk about it in more detail. And last week, James Wade winning his first Premier League night of the season in Manchester. He's up to third place now in the table. Are we overlooking him as a serious contender for this title?
Yes and no. I think he's James Wade. We know at the back of our minds, it doesn't matter where his game is at any given point, he has a chance to win every single tournament. That said, we haven't talked about him that much as a legitimate champion of this event. I can't recall if it was on air or off air that you joked that he's going to end up losing 5 or 6 finals this year and not win anything but get in fourth place and then win on finals night. Because, well, that wouldn't surprise us with James Wade. Well, now he has a title, but maybe needs another one to really cement himself in the top 4, because it's looking, as things currently stand, like a 5-way race for 4 spots. But James Wade is the master of match play. And Well, I mentioned at the start of the year that this format would be really good for Michael van Gerwen, and I think I was right about that. I think he's gotten confidence back that's been missing. He's not where he was 5 years ago by any stretch of the imagination, but he has more confidence than he's had any time in the last 18 months because of this format. What I underestimated is how good this format would be for James Wade, because there's so much pressure on everyone each week because of, as you heard from Dan Dawson, the fluidity of the tournament because of the potential for 5 points if you win a night. Suddenly, we're talking right now, Gerwyn Price is 7 points adrift. He can get 5 points back. And yes, okay, we don't know how the people ahead of him are going to be, but that'll put him right back in it if Gazzi's able to lift the title. There's so much more pressure on everyone each night because of that fluidity. And James Wade's just going to do what James Wade does. And that's most nights pick up at least a win. Some nights pick up 2 wins. And as he showed last time, 3 wins. And on playoff night, he only has to pick up 2 wins. He's a player who is great at playing the opponent and figuring out what it takes to get over the line in any given match. And in a long season like the Premier League, and especially with this new format, I think that benefits him so well. And all you have to do is get to the playoffs and anything can happen. We've seen that the last couple of years. I think James Wade is going to get to the playoffs from what I've seen so far. And I think this format is just well to his liking. Will he lift the title? I don't know. Anything can happen on playoff night. But we should not be discounting him because he is one of the legitimate favorites because, well, you'd expect him to get there. And that's all you need to be on final. And all you need to do is be there to have that chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is someone that is constantly underestimated and maybe doesn't get the respect he deserves. You think of the career that he's had and is still having in the game, the longevity that he's got in the PDC. There's not many players that can match it. I mean, I always think to James Wade and Adrian Lewis, 2 players that came through the ranks in the PDC at a very similar time. And you've got James Wade now, world number 4, still playing in the Premier League, and you've got Adrian Lewis down at world number 40, somewhere around there, and we're not seeing much of him on the TV anymore. And James Wade has been in and amongst it for the best part of 15 years now. So for me, it is, I don't know, I think we see players come through the likes of Johnny Clayton, Gerwyn Price, Peter Wright before them. Michael Smith has come through. Joe Cullen's been one that's come through more recently. And I guess they're the people that we see, the new stars on the block, the new kids on the block, and they're the ones that get all the attention. But James Wade is someone that has been there, done it, and he's still doing it, and he's still around. And a case in point, the last 3 weeks, not just winning that title last week, but the previous 2 weeks making 2 finals. And you think back to 3 weeks ago, and this illustrates the point you were making there about how quickly this table can change in the Premier League with the new format. But you go back to the end of week 7, and James Wade had lost his first game 3 weeks in a row. He was bottom of the table, and we fast forward 3 weeks, 2 finals, a title. He's now in 3rd place, and he's got a 3-point buffer on the playoff spots. So it goes to show how quickly things can turn around. And maybe this could be tip of the year, not from me or you, but from Mac Elkin, his manager, who came on the show a few weeks ago and said that James Wade, there's something coming for him. He's playing well, and there are going to be good things coming. And we've seen it the last few weeks, what he's been able to do. And he has put himself firmly in contention. Yeah, there's still plenty of work to do, isn't there? He can't take his foot off the gas now. And I don't think he will. I think he is going to be in the mix come the end of the season. Whether he gets in the top 4, I think that's going to depend on maybe the players below him. If Gerwyn Price can go on a big run, and Joe Cullen, if he can get a couple of big runs before the end of the season. So I think it is going to be tight. I don't see James Wade finishing in a 1st or a 2nd spot. I think it'll either be a 3rd or a 4th. But yeah, I mean, fair play for what he's doing. And if you've not watched his post-match press conference from last week after he won the title, then go and find it, because it's definitely interesting viewing for sure. But yeah, he's still in the hunt for the title, and given what he's achieved in the past, I don't think you can write off James Wade as being someone that could be lifting that title in Berlin.
Well, someone who has not lifted the title ever is the former world number 1 Gerwyn Price. Never even made the final, but heading into last week, he changed his walk-on song to Katy Perry's "Roar." What did you make of that, and How do you rate his chances now of making the playoffs, sitting 7 points adrift?
Yeah, we try and cover all aspects of darts on the show. Last week's question of the week, we were asking who is the best ladies player on the planet right now. This week, we're talking about Gerwyn Price's walk-on song. And looking at how the vote is going, yes, this is our question of the week. Go and vote for it on Twitter. But Ice Ice Baby, his original one, 64%. Raw, his new one, but for last week at least, 36%. And friend of the show, Matt Langan, he's a fan of the change. He said that Ice is just so flat and inert, no beat drop, no energy, low tempo, good riddance. So he's happy to see it go. For me, between the two, I'll go the other way. I think I did prefer Ice Ice Baby. It goes a little bit with his nickname, doesn't it, the Iceman? But nice to see players mixing it up with their walk-on songs. We're getting used to seeing these players in the Premier League walk out 2-3 times a night. So I don't know, maybe we should see a player walk out with 3 different walk-ons. I'm surprised that Peter Wright hasn't done that. He's changed everything else in his game over the years. Maybe we'll see him do the walk-ons. But as far as the serious stuff, the darts, it's not looking good for Gerwyn Price at the moment. And you go back to night 3 of this Premier League season, and it does seem a long time ago now, back in Belfast in mid-February, and the 108, 108, 105 averages, 2 9-darters. Since then, it's not gone according to plan, has it? He's won a couple of games. Last week he beat Peter Wright. He's beaten Michael van Gerwen. But aside from that, there's been too many defeats for him and too many performances that he won't be happy with. I know that. And I think high 80 averages, low 90 averages most of the time in this Premier League, they're just not going to cut it. So I think it is a tough ask for Gerwyn Price now if he's going to continue to play with that level of inconsistency, if you like, that we've seen in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I know we're not going to see him average 105 every night across 3 games, but if he could lift his game maybe just a smidgen and get it into the high 90s more regularly, I think we will see him maybe come back into it. But I think we're seeing at the moment 7 points off, still with 6 weeks to go and 30 points on offer. It's definitely still doable. I'm not going to write off his chances just yet, but just based on what we've seen over the last few weeks. And of course, we saw him miss the Euro Tour at the weekend with an illness as well. So it kind of feels like this is how the season's going to go for him in the Premier League. He's just going to miss out again. And we'll be talking about Gerwyn Price next year as someone that still hasn't made the Premier League playoffs. But yeah, the quality's there, of course. We'll see how these next few weeks go. But I think they are going to be pivotal now. If he could maybe win the title this week, claw back that gap on some of the people, then he's in with a shot. But I think as the weeks start to whittle down and he loses more times in the first round or second round, then it's going to become even harder for him.
Well, I'll start, I guess, with the first part of the question. That's I don't know. I actually missed the walk-on both in the Premier League end. So I'll ask me that part of the question again next week. I'll try to catch some Premier League this weekend. At the very least, search to see the video of the walk-on if I still haven't caught it. But as for the second part, his chances of making the playoffs, it's tough. One, he's somehow never even made the playoffs of this event. Some of that had to do with the fact, well, we know his first season, he was very vocal about not liking the Premier League, but he won the Grand Slam to get back into it and took much better to it and just missed out the following year. And then obviously last year had to withdraw due to COVID. But this year, it's been a bit of a bumpy ride. Yes, he had the bad luck of having to withdraw due to injury and also having to battle through injury throughout this year. And you could say there's maybe been 3 nights where he didn't have a real chance to compete. But he's also had some inconsistency even when he's been at or near full strength. That said, he is the former world number 1 and still current world number 2 for a reason, because at his best, he is one of the, if not the best player in the world. And all it's going to take is a couple of big nights to draw him back. And what better way to get it started than going against Michael van Gerwen first match in Aberdeen? If he can get that win, suddenly he's knocked out the table leader and one of his biggest rivals and got a few points under his belt, and maybe that'll take some pressure off of him. He's going to have to win probably a couple nights because of how big the deficit is. Even winning one night, even assuming the players right ahead of him don't get anything, would not be enough to get there. So you have to think at least 2 night victories just to give himself a chance and to draw him really back into it. But that's going to be really tough, and the amount of time to do it is disappearing quickly. There's only 6 more nights in the league stage to go. He's averaging a point a night. while the people he's chasing are averaging 1.8 points a night. So, if you multiply that out over the course of the remaining nights, that means those players should be getting about another 10 points. That means he'd need 17 points to catch up to Wade and Wright, and he has 6 nights to do it. That's basically averaging a semifinal over the 6 nights. Can he? Absolutely, but that's a lot to ask. I just don't know. He's gonna have to play at his best, and right now he's not playing at his best. So I'm gonna rate the chances fairly low.
We shall see. Well, we're going to come on to our picks for night 11 in Aberdeen. But first, let's hear from our next guest on the show. Here's our chat with the PDC commentator, Dan Dawson.
I'm joined today with who I have in my spreadsheet as the MC of Last Resort, Dan Dawson. Dan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, Burton. Yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. And first of all, when Alex said to me earlier that we were going to have you on the show, he asked if I had any questions. And I just said, maybe we should just let you talk about Andrew Gilding for 20 minutes, but we'll limit it to just one question. Just how good was that Friday in Barnsley a few weeks ago when Goldfinger made his first final in, I think, 8 years?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible, isn't it? I mean, that's what it's about. I think I said in commentary that, I was there on the day that he got his tour card back. And he said, look, I've done this before. I've played incredible darts, the UK Open semi-final run, the finals he's made before. Why can't I do it again? And that's exactly the right mindset that any player who gets back on the tour should have. And why can't they just recapture their old glories? But whether they do or not, I mean, it doesn't happen very often, does it? But for him to play like that day, and he's played some good stuff around that as well. It wasn't just like one magical day he had. Then it should give every player hope. If you've done it before, then you can do it again. Admittedly, he hasn't won a title before, and he still hasn't won a title. But if he plays like that, if he has more days like that, he'll put himself in the mix. And if you keep on doing that, eventually it'll happen for you. And we've seen players go and win titles after years and years of trying. Mickey Mansell took 10 years of trying and got a title. And once you've got it, they're never going to take it away from you. And it's a massive, massive achievement. And so, I very much enjoyed it, Burton.
Glad to hear. Well, let's circle back a few weeks, and we chatted in the players' room backstage in Minehead before the UK Open got underway. Apart from correcting Nico on the D Ream lyrics, what were your highlights from the weekend?
I mean, there was loads. I love the UK Open anyway. I think when we were talking about it, it just feels like lots of tournaments all bundled into one mad weekend and a holiday camp. But the young lads coming through, Keane Barry. I think we said in the practice room, didn't we? We pointed out Keane Barry and said it wouldn't surprise you if he went on a run. Or I think my exact words might have been, I don't think he's ready to make like a final or a semi-final yet. So I was wrong there. But it was incredible seeing him play with such maturity. The performance against James Wade, knocking out the defending champion, was magnificent. But then Sebastian Białecki, I mean, he came out of absolutely nowhere. What a throw that lad has. And it was exciting seeing the youngsters perform. And I think that's probably the main takeaway from it. Obviously, congratulations to Danny Noppert for winning it. It's mad that he's played one of his worst tournaments and managed to win his first PDC major, because he's played loads better than that and got nowhere near winning big titles. In fact, he hasn't even got that many titles in PDC darts, but congrats to him. But I think it's the young players who really stood out over the course of that weekend, and it was very, very encouraging to see. The game's going to be in good hands over the next few years.
Well, you mentioned Danny Noppert there. It basically answered our next question. So we'll skip ahead on our today. But on that final day, you were part of ITV's team interviewing players on stage after the final, which, of course, Danny Noppert won in the last leg against Michael Smith. But let's talk about Michael Smith then, coming so close yet again to that first major. Are those, though, you interviewed him on the stage after that, is that some of the more challenging moments in your role, interviewing a player so soon after a defeat like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's never easy interviewing people who've just lost, particularly when that felt like a significant defeat for Michael. But, it's part of the job, and it's not just part of my job. It's part of his job. If to go and play darts for hundreds of thousands of pounds, then people are going to want to hear from you. And so that's just comes with the territory. It's part of being a professional darts player. Yeah, it was tough seeing him like that, but that's what sport's about. It's about people winning, people losing. And I'm still a firm believer that Michael Smith will be a major title winner. He'll certainly win loads of other titles. He's playing some decent stuff. So look, you can't have the highs without the lows. It's unfortunate for Michael Smith and his legion of fans that he's had quite a fair few lows in big TV finals, but it'll come. I firmly believe that. But yeah, you're right. It's a tough situation, but as long as you handle it with a bit of sensitivity, then you're all right. I mean, just don't go up to him and say, "Flipping out, Michael, you really bottled that, didn't you? You're rubbish, aren't you? I bet you're feeling really bad." Because, I mean, that doesn't achieve anything, does it? You still want to know how it feels, though, because we all, as sports fans, have this sort of vicarious pleasure of watching people succeed and, conversely, watching people fail. That's what sport's all about.
Well, we're well into the Premier League season now, 6 nights left to go before the playoffs. You've been providing radio updates during the tournament. Where does your opinion sit on the new format now that we've had over half the season? Yeah, great format. I think it's brilliant. My opinion hasn't really changed from the very start of it, to be honest. When they announced it, I thought, oh, that's really good. Each night you've got a tournament to play for. You've got somebody who's crowned a winner. It feels like a meaningful little night of darts. And I think that's borne through over the first few weeks of it. And so I think it's great for the fans in there. It feels like they've seen something more valuable than perhaps seeing a few league stage games where, by and large, win, lose or draw, 2 points, 0 points or 1 point, it often didn't make that much difference to the table. The table looks very fluid from week to week. And the amount of times that we've seen players at the bottom of the table go and win the night and catapult themselves right up back into contention, I think it makes it very interesting. I think that's a reflection of the fact where we are in world darts now, where we haven't got anybody who is outright dominating. If it was this format a few years ago when Van Gerwen was winning everything, maybe it would feel a bit different because you'd be turning up and watching Van Gerwen play 3 games, win 3 games and just annihilate everybody week after week after week. But I think it actually works very well. We are seeing a lot of the games again and again and again. And I think that we might see this format evolve over the coming years where there's so much strength in depth that we could introduce other players. But it's going to be tricky because the Premier League, of course, is all about selling tickets and people wanting to watch, and people turn on and go to their one night at the darts for the year because they want to see the very best. They want to see Van Gerwen, they want to see Peter Wright or whoever. And if you don't have the very, very big names in for the particular night when it comes to your local town, then it might not be the big draw that it has become. So I think it's a very difficult one to balance. But in general, I think the format's great. And personally, I really like it. But we are going to see a lot of the same games. We are seeing a lot of the same games. Turns out, though, they're very, very unpredictable. So that does keep it fresh.
Now, away from the PDC, we've seen plenty of other darts already this year. The World Senior Championships at the Circus Tavern, as well as the WDF World Championship at the Lakeside. I know you're kept very busy with PDC work, but were either of those events ever on the table for you to work on as well?
Lakeside, I would have loved to work at the Lakeside. It just didn't marry up with me being able to do it. So I watched quite a lot of it on the telly, which was good. I thought it was really good. I thought it was positive. The production looked and sounded good. Murphy is about time he was doing some TV work because he's, as much as it pains me to say it, he is excellent. I thought there were a lot of good people involved on the Lakeside coverage. I thought it turned out to be a really good tournament. There were stories, it was interesting, and we saw some very, very encouraging stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I purely as a fan, I didn't look the senior stuff. I'm not the biggest. It doesn't excite me, to be honest. I like, there's a sort of, everybody's got their favourite players that they like to see, but, you sort of bring out these legendary old names and a lot of them are just getting absolutely annihilated by the ones who are still playing darts. I think a lot of us were expecting, the likes of Robert Thornton and Kevin Burness and Kevin Painter, the ones who've been playing regular darts, they're going to be much sharper. And even the great Phil Taylor, coming back out to play, he's just wasn't up to the job. Now I know they've got a load more senior tournaments planned, but we'll see if Phil puts in the hard work that's necessary. But it's a big ask for someone of that age, and it didn't excite me that much, to be honest. So I won't be beating a path to the door to watch it. I'll still turn on and watch a little bit because I like darts. But yeah, it was the Lakeside stuff that really got me going, to be honest.
Touching on the Lakeside stuff that we did see, the WDF, I know that's an area of darts that you've been following closely as well. What did you make of them getting their World Championship on after such a long wait with everything that's gone on? And where do you see the future of the WDF going forward?
Well, look, I was delighted to see it. I think they play a vital role. I think they're important for the game, and I think that a good functioning WDF with well-run tournaments and an avenue, an opportunity for players who aren't in the PDC system and players all over the world, as well as all the other stuff they do. Not just elite men and women's darts, but they're responsible for all sorts of things, being disability darts, all this sort of stuff. It's important for the sport, and so I want it to succeed. I think it's important that it does. I won't lie, it's going to be very, very difficult because they've got to make it work financially, and it's unless you've got big pots of money to set up some sort of organisation with the expertise and the nous to make it work, then it's going to be very difficult. They don't want to compete with the PDC, no matter what anybody else tells you. I think it'd be a great avenue for players to come to the PDC. It will help the PDC. What the future holds, I do not know. All I can speak to is that I watched the Lakeside. I thought it was good. I thought the production was good. I enjoyed the darts, and there's got some really good players and players that you might see going and doing things in the PDC. I mean, Thibaut Tricol is the perfect example. For a French player to go and reach a world final and get coverage in his home country, that could provide an avenue for the growth of darts and the elite level of the PDC into a country like France. And Thibaut won't be the last player from an unheralded country to come and showcase his talents in that WDF system, as long as it can survive and hopefully thrive. So I sincerely hope that that's what happens over the next few years. But it's going to be difficult. I know it's going to be difficult, but fingers crossed.
Now, on Friday last week, the world of darts had some sad and shocking news with the passing of Nigel Pearson, a well-known voice in the commentary box, doing darts for the last 15 years, as well as Speedway and a few other sports. What are some memories that will stick with you from being around Nigel in the press room and more recently this year working some of the pro tours together?
Yeah, I mean, look, Nigel's supposed to be with us in Munich this last weekend, and I got the news the night before, and obviously it's devastating. He was a guy that I knew before I was seriously doing the darts. I'd moved up to Birmingham back when I first started covering the World Championship, and that was the only tournament I did, just did it for the radio. And he lives up around here, and I was introduced to him by mutual friends, and we'd go and have a drink in the pub, and we'd play darts to a crap standard, and we'd laugh and we'd joke. He was always so supportive of not just me, but loads of people. And look, you've seen it over the last few days, the tributes from all over the place that have come in for Nige just speak to what kind of a man he was. He was funny. He could sniff out a Guinness from 700 yards, and he was so friendly and supportive. He was never protective of what he had. He wanted to help other people do what they could to help them achieve their goals. And certainly, he was supportive of me. and encouraging when I was starting out in the sport. And yeah, it was a horrible shock. And he was of no age, was he? I mean, 52, and with his wife Kerry and his daughter and 2 young lads, it's just a horrible, horrible tragedy. And there's nothing really, however many tributes we say, it doesn't stop or doesn't mitigate the tragedy of it. But what I would say is there's some comfort to be found in just seeing the flood of tributes for people who held him in such high regard. And look, I certainly was one of those. He was a thoroughly fun, nice, supportive guy.
Some nice words. And back to you, and we saw you help out with the emceeing for part of the Euro Tour at the weekend. Unfortunately, I missed it, but how was it? And did you bring back your "It's time for the darts" catchphrase?
I did, yes, I did. I mean, I had to do a bit in German, so it was tricky, to be honest. I mean, I was only doing, again, the MC of last resort, because their normal MC, Phil, had to go and do an exhibition for PDC Europe elsewhere in Germany that night, where Mark Webster played, didn't win a leg. But yeah, it was just something different. I mean, I've done a number of different jobs in this sport now, and it's nice to do different things just to keep it fresh and interesting. I'm not John McDonald. I don't think I'm ever going to be John McDonald, but if I can fill in and do something that's a bit interesting. Plus, I'm doing it on the European Tour, best tour in professional sport. We had 3,000 Germans packed in, so it was fun, and the crowd were decent. And yeah, it was very, very enjoyable, and turned out to be a great weekend as well. You know, Martin Lukeman versus Luke Humphries in the final. If you pick that one, then fair play to you. I know we've all been saying Luke Humphries is going to win things, but I didn't expect him to win a Euro Tour beating Martin Lukeman in the final last weekend in Munich. But it happened, and I was very pleased that it did, because it was some brilliant stuff all weekend.
Let's talk about that. Luke Humphries got his hand on his first Euro Tour title, and more importantly, a Munich pork sword. A big weekend for Martin Lukeman. And do you think that might open a lot of doors for him this year?
I think he'd already opened them anyway. I mean, even before he'd got to the final, even before that weekend, you were looking at the. I mean, I know you love a table, Burton, but you're looking at it and going, he's doing enough. He's going to be at the match play and stuff like that, and he's just further cemented it. And with the match play and probably the European Championship and the Players' Championship finals and the Worlds and all this other stuff, things are happening for Martin Lukeman. And all right, he's not posting some of the mad numbers that we're seeing from other players who are really laying down markers, saying, oh, they could be first-time title winners, the likes of Luke Humphries last year, for example, or what Martin Schindler's doing at the minute. But he's winning games, and he's looking good, and he's playing better than he ever has before. And it's fun, and it's interesting watching people develop and mature and become world-class performers when they haven't done it before, because they don't know how good they're going to be. I know that, you know, everybody says I'm a world champion in practice. If I play my game, I can beat anybody. But until you do, it's just talk. And Martin Lukeman is certainly taking some big steps in his career, and I'm glad to see it, because he's a good guy and he's an entertaining player to watch. But Luke Humphries, I mean, it seemed like it's only a matter of time before he starts winning things, and he's got a Pro Tour title under his belt now, and now he's added a Euro Tour title to it, and he is very, very quickly looking like a very, very realistic prospect of winning something big on the telly. But we know the pitfalls of making those confident predictions, because there are so many players who look like they could do it, and many players who we expected to have already done it and haven't yet.
And lastly, before we let you go, we know how much you love the Euro Tour, but we should mention next month you're going to be absent for one of them. Instead, you're going to be at the World Chase Tag Championships in London. How much are you looking forward to watching your second love chase tag?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, when I was talking with the chase tag guys, we were supposed to do a whole bunch of stuff through COVID. Like I was going to be doing it in Mexico and America and all sorts of stuff, and it just didn't happen because nothing was happening. But I did say, look, listen, lads, I can't miss any TV tournaments if I'm working at them, and I can't miss any Euro tours. It's, you know, that's my thing. But I can't really turn this down, to be honest, lads. So I'm going to have to miss a Euro Tour in Zwolle. And I've got conflicting emotions about it, because it is the Euro Tour. But on the other hand, if you've not watched Chase Tag, go and watch it. It's all on YouTube, and it's really, really good. So change is as good as a rest. I will come back refreshed post Zwolle. And I don't know, I mean, I won't have any parkour skills, but I think it might even help my darts commentary. It's good to do something different. But yeah, it'll be great. And I would urge anybody who fancies coming down to York Hall, if they're not watching the darts on PDC TV, or in fact, bring your laptop. Come down York Hall. It's free to get in. Watch some of the greatest parkour athletes in the world, and you can have the Euro Tour on a laptop, because that'll help me out, actually, because I'm going to have to use my laptop for research. So if you just want to come and stand by me, put the Euro Tour on as well, and I can sort of multitask. That'll be handy.
It's going to be really weird when Andrew Gilding finally wins his first PDC title.
Don't you flipping dead. Do not even suggest it. If that happened, look, if Gilding finds his way through to the final session, I'm just putting the microphone down and I'm getting to Zwolle. I'm running to Zwolle. Or I'm going to like get a piggyback from one of the parkour lads, and I'm just going to demand they take me to the Netherlands, because I won't miss that. But yeah, I don't even tease me with that prospect, Burton, because that's not fair.
Well, Dan, apologies to end with that tease, but thank you so much for joining us.
That's my absolute pleasure. Keep up the good work, lads.
Thanks again to Dan for joining us. Now on to our picks for the Premier League Night 11 in Aberdeen. What a venue this is, the P&J Live, one of the few Premier League venues I've been to, and kicking off the night, it is one of the home favourites, Gary Anderson, going up against Johnny Clayton. How do you see the first game going?
Got to go with the Ferret. Gary Anderson, he has improved over the course of the season, but not by that much. Johnny Clayton, still one of the best players in the world, still second in the Premier League, still one of only two players who's won multiple nights. I'm setting myself up for failure, obviously, by saying how this is clearly going to be Johnny Clayton. So congratulations in advance to Gary Anderson for winning the match. But I can't pick against the Ferret. I think all signs point to a fairly comfortable Johnny Clayton win, and I'm going to follow all signs. I'll go 6-2. Yeah,
it's difficult to pick Gary Anderson, isn't it? But if you go back to week 6, and this was one of the quarterfinals, and I believe we both went with an easy Johnny Clayton win, and that was the night that Gary Anderson turned his season around for that week, winning the whole night and beating Johnny Clayton 6-5 in a quite a lower quality game than we were expecting, but then went all the way and won the title and produced some great stuff in the rounds that followed. But since then, we've not seen him pick up another win in the Premier League. He's withdrew a couple of weeks ago, but aside from that, it has been first round defeats for him. So the time's running out for Gary Anderson to really push up the table, and I think the playoffs is probably beyond him now. Johnny Clayton, on the other hand, he could finish the night top of the table, and I think he's going to go top after this game. I'm going with you. I'm going to go with Johnny Clayton. I'll go a little bit closer. I'll go 6-3 to the reigning Premier League champion.
Second match of the night, and it's between Peter Wright, who's currently clinging on to the last spot in the playoffs, and Joe Cullen, who's hot on his tail, just 3 points adrift. How do you see this one?
Probably a slugfest if you're going off how their 2 previous Premier League games have gone, and all 4 of the averages in those games, I was looking back, 88, 87, 87, 86 averages those 2 players have produced, and we know that they're a lot better than those averages. They could quite easily put 10, 15, maybe 20 points on those averages, and you wouldn't be surprised. So hopefully we'll see a much better game between these 2 this time, third time round. And it is a big game, isn't it? You look at the table going into it, 4th v 5th, Joe Cullen 3 points off. This could be the night where he puts himself back in the playoffs, and Peter Wright, who's been in the top 4, I think he's been in it pretty much the whole season. Yeah, just looking here, he has been in it, the top 4, since that opening night, which he won. So to drop out at this point would be a dent in his hopes of getting in the playoffs. But I'm going to go with Peter Wright to keep that gap on the top 4. So I'm going to go 6-3 to the reigning world champion.
I say this every week. Every match is a tough match to pick. But I think this one's really difficult because there's just so much at stake right now. And I just have that feeling that Joe Cullen's going to come in and put in one of those performances that if he played more often, we'd see him already as a multiple major champion. He has that ability to put in that 110 game and just look so effortless and unplayable We haven't seen it really yet this Premier League. We haven't seen it that much this year, despite him winning a major already. I just think one of those performances is coming, and I have a feeling it's going to be this week because of how important this game is. And he's probably going to say in the post-match interview, I don't know why I can't play like this every night. But, if you need to pull it out somewhere, this is where you pull it out. I just got that feeling he's going to do it. I'm going 6-0 to Joe Cullen. I think he averages 110.
Wow, a big call. Third game up. It is last week's winner, James Wade, against Michael Smith. How do you see this one?
I just, by the way, we do know I just won tip of the year if that happens.
Yes, definitely.
So maybe I'll just say that exact same thing every week until it happens. Michael Smith, he's been unfortunate this Premier League, at least most of the Premier League, but he wasn't unfortunate last week. He didn't play anywhere near his best, and he got what he deserved for playing that way. James Wade did play at or near his best, and he won the title, averaging 105 in the final. I think it's tough to pick Michael Smith right now because when he plays well, he gets beat. When he plays poorly, he gets beat. It's been one of those Premier League campaigns for him that he'll want to forget. But it'd be a great opportunity for him to just get some confidence and get something from this match. And I think he's going to nip James Wade. I think still not going to change that it's a Premier League to forget, but it'll be a night to remember. I'm going 6-5 to Bully Boy.
Yeah, I've got it going quite similar, actually. I'm going with Michael Smith on this one, but on paper, you'd probably look at the other way, wouldn't you? James Wade has been on such a good run in this Premier League the last few weeks, getting to 2 finals, then winning it last week, whereas Michael Smith, as you say, for the most part, he has been unfortunate. Last week, didn't produce his best stuff against Joe Cullen and went out in the first game. Looked a little bit better on the Euro Tour, it's got to be said, a couple of 100-plus averages there. He is 10 points off the playoffs, though, and it kind of feels like this week it is now or never for him if he is going to mount a late charge and get in the playoffs. And as we've said quite a few times, with the points that are on offer each week, a couple of good weeks, and you are right back in the mix. And maybe this could be the week, who knows? But I think, like you, I'm going to go with Michael Smith. I want it to be a close race come the end of the season. I don't want to see 4 players run away with it. So, yeah, I'm kind of going heart over head on this one, so we see a closer run to the finish. So I'm going to go 6-4 to Michael Smith.
And finally, the Gerwyn Derby between the world number 2 and world number 3, but Premier League number 6 against Premier League number 1, Gezi against MVG. How do you see this one?
Yeah, what a game to finish off the 4 quarterfinals. And I'm going similar to my last game. As I say, I want to see more players in the mix and a closer race for the playoffs. So a bit like Michael Smith, who's quite a way back, Gerwyn Price as well, as we've touched on, 7 points off. So he needs the points more than Michael van Gerwen at the moment. But at the same time, as I've predicted at the start, I've gone with Johnny Clayton to win his quarterfinal. So going into this game, Michael van Gerwen would be second in the table, and the goal differential as well. Okay, there's no draws anymore, but every point could prove to be crucial in this, and he's going to need the points if he's going to get back that top spot going into the semi-finals. But I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Gerwyn Price. I think he's one of his 2 wins that he's had recently in the Premier League has been against Michael, so he is able to raise his game against those players right at the top of the rankings. So for me, yeah, I want to see a closer race. I'm going to go with 6-5. It's going to go all the way like last time with Johnny Clayton and Michael van Gerwen last week, which I forgot to mention was a great game last week. So yeah, another 6-5, please, and hopefully it'll be just as good.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm not going to go 6-5. I'm going to go 6-4 to Gezi instead. But otherwise, I'm with you. I think Gezi's going to put in a little bit of charge. Still think it's a very tough ask for him to make the playoffs, as we discussed earlier. But he's going to give it his best shot, and that starts by beating the world number 3, and I think he does that 6-4. As you said, he's been playing. I mean, he's after never being able to beat MVG. He's over the last couple of years has turned the tides, or at least even the tides against him. And this is a big chance for him to keep that momentum going against the former world number 1 in a battle of former world number 1s. And I think he'll just manage to do that. But I'll go one leg more convincing than you have at 6-4.
Well, those are our picks for Aberdeen. Of course, our last man standing competition that came back last week, and after the first week, we've got 49 of you left in the running for the prize. So if you did get through last week, don't forget to tweet us your pick for this week. A reminder that if you picked Johnny Clayton, you can't pick him again this week. You've got to go with one of the other 7 players left. So yeah, get your picks in, make sure they're in on time, and good luck if you're playing along still. And we'll be back with a listener question in a moment to wrap up the show, but let's get to our final guest on the show this week. It is with the head of global operations for the ADC, Scott Hunt.
I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the ADC's head of global operations, Scott Hunt. Thanks for the time, Scott. How you doing?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having us on again. I'm good. Yourself?
Doing good, thanks. And first of all, before we get into the ADC stuff, I've been dying to ask you this. Who won the Hunt annual Christmas pairs last Christmas? Did you get the title back?
Oh, no. Unfortunately, it's the first time in about 5 years we couldn't go ahead with it. Our dad wasn't very well at the time, so we had to postpone it. But yeah, we're back next year.
Hope he's back to full fitness for the next time round.
Yeah, he will be. All good now.
Good to hear. Well, Adam Hunt, your brother, our listeners will know him from the PDC Tour, a current top 50 player. Since we last had you on, he's ticked off a few milestones. He's won some matches at Ali Pali, made the last 16 of the Grand Slam. What moments have stuck with you from following Adam's career the last couple of years?
It's always got to be Ali Pali. It's everyone's dream. It's what everyone, it's the full season. It's the finale as such. So every time he wins on that stage, they're the biggest moments. It's just seeing him win in that arena, especially with the crowds being back last year. Yeah, it's definitely got to be that. But even the Grand Slam, going the depth he did, we weren't there in person. Obviously, it was behind closed doors at the time, but definitely Ali Pali, yeah.
Let's rewind to when we last had you on the show. May 2020 feels like a long time ago now, back when you were putting on online events during the lockdowns. How do you look back on that time now? Because for a lot of players, having that avenue of online darts to still be able to play the game was so important.
Oh, yes, well, as we touched on back then, it kept everyone sane, it kept everyone in contact with each other. We're able to play a sport, carry on playing the sport we love. A lot of people had to stop what they're doing, everyone locked down. So off of that competitiveness, I met a lot of people online that I still keep in touch with today that are coming to our events and coming to the ADC events. So it's been a positive in that way, but yeah, it's more so just keeping in contact with people and keeping people sane.
And not long after we spoke, Steve Brown launched Modern Amateur Darts MAD, and you were the first Super Region Director to be appointed for the North East. What persuaded you to get on board so soon after that launch?
It's Steve's drive, it's Steve's passion, and what he wants to do with the amateur game and the opportunities he wants to create for people. But very similar. I love running events. I love being involved and the buzz that you get from it on the day and the anticipation up to it. And Steve's got the same drive and passion as I have for the game. And the technology side, obviously we didn't kick off as well as we hoped, but just using technology stats, real-time updates. But I believe we're on track now, so that was probably the main thing and the main reason I joined you.
You're also the owner of North East Darts Promotions. We saw when events started to come back around last summertime, the Northumberland Masters, that was one of the first ones back, and more have followed. How good was it to get back to promoting events in person again?
Yeah, it's just the ideal, isn't it? It's what everyone wants to do, play in person, and it was just getting back out there. It was actually a lovely day over in Northumberland. It was sunny, everyone had the shorts on, it was a good vibe. Great tournament. I believe it was won by my brother, Adam. So, great day all round, but just seeing everyone again and getting up and running, and especially at the venue up there. It's a great venue and great set of darts players in that area.
The North East dart scene is known as one of the best in the UK. What's that dart scene been like since coming out of these lockdowns? Has the interest stayed the same? Has it dropped, or has it even gone up?
Yeah, it's spread out a lot more, and we've got more competitions, and everyone's grasping the idea of technology using tablets and getting involved in that side, more pre-registrations. And what I'm finding out now, and a lot of other promoters around the country, is there's more and more people getting involved because it's more accessible. Obviously, using the system of Darts Atlas is helping me personally, but as a business and other promoters around the country, it is helping people. See, every competition I used to run, I'd know 99% of them. Now, there's 75% of the people I do know, and the other 25% are newcomers that are finding tournaments online. And I think the lockdown helped that as well. There's a lot more people sales went up in darts and dartboards, and there's a lot more people got involved in the game. And I believe that's catapulted into real-time darts now, like physical darts. So yeah, it's been a bonus.
Good to hear. Well, we'll come on to the Mad rebrand as the ADC in a moment, but we all remember watching that Mad launch at the end of 2020 with the belts, all the plans that were put forward. It drew a lot of attention, but never really took off. Was it hard to build momentum because of the time it was with the pandemic and not a lot of in-person darts going on?
Yeah, so the ideas and the concepts of what Steve and the team at the time wanted to do was, brilliant for the game and especially for amateurs. It was just a lot happened in one bang, whereas it should have been took a little bit slower as such. But we've learned it by it. Me and Steve, I talk with him every day. We've learned by it, and we're taking things a lot slower now. But yeah, the intentions are right. Obviously, the name change benefits us. So moving forward, we're going to take things step by step and build up momentum slowly.
Let's get on to the ADC Amateur Dart Circuit, which is what MAD was rebranded as right at the end of last year. It was announced you were taking on a full-time role as the head of global operations. Work-wise, is that new for you, working full-time in darts? Has life changed much for you in that respect?
Yeah, so I work from home, which was a big change. I've always been out and about with the jobs I've had. I've never worked full-time in darts. It was always a hobby. Running events on a weekend, midweek, on the nights, outside of full-time roles. So yeah, it has its ups and downs like every job. Sometimes I get a little bit sick of it, but that's just natural. But you just keep plodding on, and things are starting to open up now. We've got more events coming along. Everything's ticking along nicely, and we've got some more announcements to announce later on in the year. So everything's building up to these moments. So the last 3 months has been hard working behind the scenes, but now as the events come into fruition, I think it will kick on.
As you mentioned, it was a much softer rebrand compared to the MAD launch we saw, but it appears to be growing. You've got over 1,000 players on the ranking list at the moment. How have the first 4 months of the ADC gone so far?
Yeah, well, I believe we're ahead of schedule on what we wanted and anticipated. Every day we're trying to build relationships with new promoters and target new areas. We're strong in certain areas, which everyone obviously mentions, but that's just natural. But as time comes by, we'll try and reintroduce events in different parts of the country as well as the world as we'll get onto that. But I think we're going well. We're working with really good people, hungry people that want to adapt and use new technology, use the tablets, the way they run the competitions, all the stats are live, you get live scores now. People are being able to attract their friends and family a lot easier now with these competitions, which is a bonus for everyone.
Definitely. And you mentioned the technology side of things. Friend of the show, Matt Langan, who created Darts Atlas, the software which is driving these ADC events. We should mention him. How important was it to get him and Darts Atlas on board to help drive that focus on improving the technology and the user-friendly experience side of amateur darts?
Well, to be honest, I don't think we would have rebranded if we hadn't have spoke to Matt. I don't think we would be where we are today and what we want to do in the game if it wasn't for Matt. We get on really well. Me and Matt, we speak near enough every day. The ideas will bounce off each other, but Matt's ideas and what he wants to do and the way he wants to grow the game globally is exactly what we need and what we want. We've just been talking about branching out in the USA, and he's got some great ideas, and I think that's the next market we're going to be targeting. But in a nutshell, just top guy.
Looking at the Darts Atlas website, it's a much better platform to navigate with the events all on there, with the results, the rankings, the regions. What's the feedback been like so far on that? And also, how has it gone down in actual events as well?
Yeah, so as you said there, everything's in one central location. It's easy to navigate, it's simple, it's clean to look at, and it's very user-friendly. You can find everything within a couple of clicks of a button. The event, obviously, as everything, it's new, it's a change, so the older generation, of those that aren't technology savvy, getting used to that was obviously slow burner with loads of promoters, myself, other promoters around the country. But now it's time, it's like everything, it's changed and people are starting to adapt to it a lot easier. Register online, pay online, they can follow the stats, like we said, the rankings, follow their friends. So yeah, moving forward, it's going well.
As you say, it's still early days. You said you're ahead of where you wanted to be at this point, but how do you think the ADC can cut through, make a bigger impact than it is at the moment, attract more organisers to get on board, get their events accredited for ranking points?
Well, the main thing is kind of the ultimate, isn't it? What can you offer back to them to put ADC points on their events or sanction their events and use the system. It's the end goal, and we're working towards big majors, big opportunities, finals, weekends. These are all going to come in time. So that's the main thing we're working on at the moment, working with the other teams around the world, in Australia and Holland, Belgium, America. We're touching up into Gibraltar now and Spain, as well as we're going to be potentially looking at Scandinavia as well. So these are the areas we can offer big opportunities for these players as well. It'll help grow. But we'll never forget our roots. It's for the amateurs. It's for the local players. As we see, it's local darts on a national scale. So if we can carry on looking after those local players, give them opportunities for travel to their local pub, win competition, win ranking points, and eventually go on to the next step. So that's the main aim.
And it's a big weekend coming up next week with the first weekend of the Winmau British Championship Tour taking place in Durham. Talk to us about what the Championship Tour is about and your hopes for that weekend.
Yeah, so the tour there was nothing about at the moment. Is a tour in the UK. You've got your big major Opens, the WDF, the British Open, the England Darts all run their own thing, but just big Opens. Whereas we felt that there was nothing for the amateur in a kind of a tour. So we've touched on certain areas that were strong logistically and, on the ground. We've got people on the ground. So we're starting in the northeast where I'm based, starting at an iconic venue, which is the Rayton Arena, which was known for the first PDC World Cup of Darts. Fantastic arena, 2,000 capacity. So the idea behind it was just giving a professional level of competition for those amateurs, getting a feel for it. So we're going to set up similar to how the PDC do, with barriers separating everyone, large stage, 28-foot stage setup, LED scoreboard, mic, MC, callers, everything like that. So we just wanted to give something back to the amateurs and give them that professional feel as such, and then hopefully create the next world champion.
And I guess really for people that are listening that want to either play in these events, how can they go about entering this first weekend? And also, as our listeners as well, if they wanted to follow or watch this, is there going to be any streaming available for this weekend?
Yeah, so to enter, to try and keep it as simple as possible, you can find it on Dartscast.com, searching for ADC UK, go onto the calendar, and it's April the 30th and May the 1st. There's two double headers over the Saturday, Sunday. Or you could just go to the website, which is uk.dartcircuit.com, and that will take you straight to the page, and you can find it via that. Yes, streaming will be there. We're doing full production. We've teamed up with a production company. There will be multiple cameras. We've got a spotter. We've got commentary. So all that will be going live on our YouTube channel, and possibly over Facebook over the weekend. So we'll have two bites of the cherry. But yeah, that's how we get involved.
Brilliant. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. And we should also mention as well that belts are still part of the rebrand, with the ADC Jared Cole still listed as the global champion. Is there any update as far as when we'll see those belts start to be defended again?
Yeah, we're in discussions where we're talking with venues, and we're going to get something moving very shortly. As mentioned at the start, we've tried to take things slower. So we start with the open rankings, get people under the system using Darts Atlas, gain them ranking points, get themselves up the tables. Now we're introducing the tour, and then next we'll come back to the belts. And Jared's still global champion, and we're looking to find him a challenger very soon.
And lastly, if we were to be in conversation this time next year, what would you look back on the last 12 months and class as the main goals you'd like to have achieved with the ADC?
Winning people over. Obviously, it's we're new. We're starting from scratch. Other organisations have taken on members and existing competitions, so we would like to just win people over that way, give us a chance, and just put on a good events that people enjoy going to, and come back and say, yes, I enjoyed that experience, I'll go again. That's probably the main aim, in branching out around the world, just giving us new opportunities in different territories and building something up so we can then create a big world championship as such, or a world open, as we will be doing soon.
Excellent. Well, Scott, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much for taking the time to have a chat with us, and wish you all the best for that first weekend of the Championship Tour next week and what else is to come for the rest of the year.
Brilliant, Alex. Thanks for having us on. Cheers. Take care.
Thanks again to Scott for joining us. Now finish up with a listener question. Comes from John Thompson. He says, now that Humphries has won, who's your pick for the next player to win their first Euro Tour? Ideally someone who hasn't already won an even bigger title to avoid an easy Rob Cross answer and an appreciation minute.
Yeah, we talked a little off air about this question. I'll to clarify the rules on this. So I think we agreed that any major obviously is bigger, but we at least PDC major, but we decided that World Series event was not. I won't mention the player. I think it's obvious who you're going to say now, but I'll leave him for you to say, although I in advance agree with that. Among the other players, got to start with the Dimitri Vandenberg, who finally made it through to the final session of a Euro Tour. Still hasn't won one of these, and he's there or thereabouts. Danny Noppert as well, one of the highest ranked players not to. But there's some players that are further down the rankings that I think are right there on the cusp as well. Callan Ritz is not playing at the same standard as he was last year, but I think it's just a little bit of slump as he gets used to being one of those players with a target on his back. He was showing every sign of being a future Euro Tour winner last year, and I think he's right there in the conversation to be the next first-time winner. But then even further down the rankings, also like players like Keen Barry, Martin Schindler, who are coming up. But I'll go with one more name who we should be talking about more because he's been just phenomenal so far this year. And yes, he hasn't made a final of any sort, but that would not surprise me if very soon he does. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's on the Euro Tour, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's a title. And that's the player who's barely in the top 100 right now, Josh Rock. I'm not going to say he's the next first-time winner, but I think he'll win a title of some sort this year, and it will not surprise me if that title is a Euro Tour.
That's a great pick, and yeah, I mean, you look at how many people have won major titles in the last few years, but haven't won a Euro Tour title. You mentioned a few of them there, but Rob Cross, Dimitri Vandenberg, Jose de Souza, Nathan Aspinall, Danny Noppert. It shows you how hard these Euro Tours are to win, putting it all together in one weekend, and especially that final day when you've got to win 3-4 games. But yeah, I was thinking about this question, the few names that you mentioned there, Callum Ritz, Keen Barry. For me, I whittled it down to 3 players, and it's hard to pick between the 3 of them. And I went with 3 players that are in the seeds at the moment. They're in the Pro Tour top 16, so they don't have to worry about those qualifiers at the moment. But you've got Dirk van Dijvenbode, Ryan Serwand, the one that we alluded to, Damon Heta. I think those are the 3 for me leading the way as players that could win that first Euro Tour title, but haven't won a big title already. So for me, yeah, they're the 3, and maybe we'll see Dirk do it, Ryan do it, Damon do it. Maybe we'll see all 3 of them do it. Damon, of course, his best run so far. Previously, he hadn't made a quarter-final on the Euro Tour, got to a semi-final at the weekend. So, yeah, I'm probably maybe leaning towards him as one of those 3 players if I had to pick one of the 3. But, yeah, those are my 3 that I'd put out there as the names that we could see on that Euro Tour Roll of Honour this year.
Anything else for this week?
As always, got to say big thank you to everyone for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks to our guests, Martin, to Dan, to Scott, for joining us. We appreciate their time. And as always, big thanks to Dartwolf, our sponsor of this show. If you want some more Dynamite Darts content, head on over to dartwolf.tv, at Dartwolf180. Give them a follow on Twitter. Good luck to everyone that's still in our last man standing competition. Enjoy the darts, and we'll be back next week, of course, as we edge closer to that magical 250 episode mark. And if there's anyone that you want us to get on next week, or maybe even for that 250th episode, give us a bit of time to get them on and arrange it. So get in touch and let us know, and enjoy the darts. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, we should have done a special for the 240th episode to celebrate Mac's score on a quadruboard, but alas, we didn't have that foresight. Maybe we'll have to figure out some of the historic 6 start outs to celebrate as we get into the higher numbers. What is it, 302 for Peter Wright?
Yes, yeah, we can't forget that one.
So we'll have some special episodes coming up, but 250 is our next big milestone. Let us know if there's anyone you want on. We'll obviously be back recapping as a bunch of Pro Tours going on in the next few months as we get closer to the World Match Play. Keep the ideas coming, keep the questions coming, keep hanging tight, and keep enjoying the darts. What else is there to do? Well, I guess, go outside a little. The weather is getting nice now, but don't do too much. There are a lot of darts that you need to hang tight to enjoy.